back for another episode of Not Just Neighbors. It's Pranav here.
And Roshni. We actually recorded the first episode outside. Really nice, good weather, good backdrop, but the sound was terrible.
Yeah, we had
all you could hear was leaves.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah.
But new episode today, so let's get into it.
Yeah. So we covered this again previously, but actually there's no previously, so this is the first time. But we wanted to start this podcast by talking about who we are, why it's called Not Just Neighbors, where we are, and maybe who's upstairs as well. So it's called Not Just Neighbors because me and Pranav are indeed not just neighbors. We're cousins, we're friends, we go on trips together, we went to class together, to the same high school, and there's been times where we're roommates. He's visited me in New York and Charlottesville. We're here in Virginia, so a lot more than just neighbors. But
yeah, all that, teammates.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and then to go back a little bit more, we are family because Pranav does a better job of explaining this.
Our grandparents are siblings.
Our grandparents are siblings, and two of our grandparents' siblings also live on the street, and then our parents grew up in the same house in India together, and now we live in the same neighborhood in America together. So that's pretty cool, and that's why we've been able to stay closer. We're literally only, 2 years apart, or a year and a half apart?
Less than a year.
Yeah, less than a year apart.
Yeah.
And we wanted to start this podcast basically because we have these deep conversations all the time, and we don't always agree, but we tend to need to hear the other person's perspective, and that's basically why we keep coming back to each other. And a lot of times we have these conversations with our cousins, our younger ones or older ones, and we are uniquely American and uniquely Indian and a lot of other things, and that makes conversation interesting. So that is why we wanted to do this podcast. Also, this is a random thing I'm just throwing out here, but I think I'm in the business space, so this is why I'm coming at it from this perspective, but a lot of big companies are successful because they know how to feed previous customer base, and they don't know how to adapt to new trends. And I think that's why we're here, is because a lot of we're big podcast listeners, and we have a lot of influencer or just personalities that we follow, and they're really good at the incumbent need and what we kind of wanted previously, but I don't see anybody talking about the stuff that we're talking about, especially from this perspective. And what are we going to cover on this podcast?
On this one, we're going to introduce ourselves a little bit. This one specifically at least, but yeah. Overall, a lot of philosophy, science, cultural observations,
yeah.
Personal reflections.
And we're going to be like a startup in the sense that whoever our audience ends up becoming, we're going to try to show you guys the part of our personality that we think you'll find more interesting and functional. I don't know.
Yeah, we've tried to start it with zero costs, but
yeah.
I ended up getting the mic because of the audio. I just was not. I'm a little bit perfectionist.
Yeah, he is.
But yeah, you want to just start introducing a little bit?
Yeah. So this is cool because I think that the way you introduce yourself changes in every situation and as you get older, because you realize that if you meet a stranger, you really get to tell them what's most important to you, and you can just leave it at that. You don't have to tell them how old you are, where you went to school, all of that.
They don't need to know your whole story.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not going to tell you guys my whole story either.
Actually, though, there is one setting where you would pretty much have the same thing, and that's professional setting.
Yeah, because you know exactly what the person wants from you and that kind of thing. But in this one, what I would want to be known for, well, I really like all things design, that being buildings, art, nature, writing, music, anything related to design, basically. And on top of that, I spend most of my time doing research for the environmental and finance space in DC, and I like sustainability because I think sustainability is kind of the archetype of design. And then I like endurance sports. I think that my personality is wired for long-term things but short-term thinking, so endurance sports kind of suit me well, and I like talking about that kind of stuff. I like David Goggins, we both like Alex Hormozi, we both like David Goggins, and we're both really into philosophy, so I'll pass it to you.
Yeah, Pranav, and I'm technically I'm a sophomore in college,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm planning on transferring out of my community college and getting into BIT or finance. I have 2 little siblings.
Yeah.
I've got friends, mostly close by, but they're pretty much all over the place right now. Everything else is pretty, like,
ancillary, like supplementary to these 4 things.
Yeah, like we're from an Indian family. We're from a big family.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty honestly like family, friends, and that's for most
what you
people.
do, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I do like to do some. I like to edit videos, and I like to create these kind of content. I've been trying to get her to do it for a while. She was about to bail on me today. I was kind of mad.
As I said, very short-term oriented, but like long-term plans. We also both like traveling a lot, and I think that will be an interesting part of this podcast. Is that together and separately gone to a lot of different places, and it's a privilege to do that and have that perspective. And I like reflecting on that. So we're gonna get into the multicultural aspect pretty much ad hominem throughout this discussion and throughout the future one. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's good enough. Anything else they learn about us will be from what we think about everything.
Yeah.
So, did you want to get into a certain topic?
I wanted to. I think whenever I meet somebody that's interesting to me, like the 2 things that I find myself thinking are like, how do they wake up? Like, what are their priorities when they wake up? And also the whole like, what's your biggest asset? What do you think your biggest asset is to any relationship? Because that kind of determines whether I want to be friends with them or not. So we can start with that, or we can.
No, yeah, that's fine.
Go into the whole arranged marriage.
Let's go with that first.
Okay.
So I actually don't go too far into that because everyone has their own priorities, at least for that part of it.
Yeah.
Their own priorities, but their values can be similar.
Uh-huh.
So, like, it could be, like in the morning, like when they wake up in the morning, it could be get work done or go to the gym. Completely different, but they'll get it done at some point. You know?
Yeah.
And then I also, what was the second part you said?
What is your biggest asset that you bring to relationships?
Okay, yeah, see, that I'm definitely thinking about all the time for everybody because it's not like what do they offer me, but what do they offer the world, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to think about, I look at my friends, and a lot of them, they would impact the world positively if they could have some kind of influence. And that's what I like about them, one of the things. But if we really want to, you want to talk about what we like for, like what it is for both of us?
Yeah, sure. Kind of to preface this conversation or tie it together is, I think the reason I ask this and the reason I have like a structured way of thinking of how a person would relate to the outside world and me personally is because this one thought, it's basically about like moral community and moral society and why current day lacks that and why we wanted to film this podcast, and we think it's such an opportunity to talk about like our own moral society, which is our family and our neighborhood.
We really wanted to
share that this is a way of living.
Yeah, and also like brag about ours and like insult you for yours because dude, like as society as a whole, like obviously I'm like 21 years old, like pretty much still a kid, like talking shit about the world, but I mean I look at it and I'm like it could be so much better.
Yeah.
And anytime I like insult someone or like come at someone, it's so that they can improve. And if I'm coming at you, society, then you can do better.
So that's Pranav. The other way is I think all humans are inherently selfish and flawed just because that's how the brain works. You want to choose the shortest path to get to the best distance or destination. Most people. Yeah. And that's our base case. And when you meet somebody, that's kind of your base case, like of what do they want from me and what can I get from them. And I don't think, as you said, everybody works that way, but I think that's why moral society is important. What I mean by moral society is basically a place where you share the same values as people and you can expect that they act on those values.
Right.
And not just that you show up to a stranger and you both step back to let the other person go back because you both value that people are happy and that you exhibit kindness. And we miss that a lot. And I think that in a lot of the podcasts that are out there, they're really getting to that individual level where you should be the best version of yourself. And I totally agree with that because the way you show up for others is how you show up for yourself. But a lot of times, me personally, like, I need momentum. Like, I need something to feel like I don't have to spend something I don't have to get to the starting point. And that can be society. That can be like, I don't need to be having a good day to open the door for a stranger, that kind of thing. And if you don't have people around you, it's really hard to find those moments. So
yeah, for sure. Actually, I believe that if you have people around you that you care about, it just makes you morally a better person.
Yeah, exactly. It's like when you have a sibling and you know how to treat somebody, like you know how to hate somebody without devaluing who they are.
Exactly. And also, I actually read that there was a study where if you, like, at least guys, they mature exponentially faster if they spend a little bit more time with children.
Mm-hmm. I can see that, yeah.
Yeah, because they are kind of taking responsibility for someone that isn't themselves.
Yeah.
And that's what, like propels them forward.
Yeah. And this isn't like... this isn't like base camp for like communism or egalitarian. Like, so the structural part of society, I don't know what the best option is, and like that's not really what this is about. It's mostly just the internal, literal moral formation of how you think of other people and how you have relationships, and that can be within any type of like economic structure.
It's pretty much how people treat people.
Yeah, and not to make this super like religious and deep, but I mean, I'm a practicing Hindu, and our family is that immigrated from India, and
I am somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, so I can't really speak for him, but we definitely are not like nihilists. I think nihilism, where you think life is meaningless.
Yeah.
We think that we're a part of a much bigger cycle of life and rebirth and death that exists with or without us. So within that belief, it's even more important and prudent for us to build relationships, and I look forward to doing that online here. So yeah, and okay, back to the question at hand. What's your biggest asset? So I think this is pretty up there, but I think I just make things better. Like I am able to take a lot of moments of instability and disorganization and chaos and find value in them and put them together and see a vision. And I think that kind of ties into like short-term, long-term type of thing, because I enjoy all the different moving parts of stuff, but I see a vision in a lot of things, and that's how it works out with my relationship with my sister, who's younger than me. She has a lot of moving parts. I have a lot of moving parts, but I'm able to see a place where everything has value. And when I meet people, I think that's why I end up making some questionable relationships, because I always see a place for people somewhere in my future, because I'm just juggling around a bunch of different parts. And I think that's all life is. But yeah, I would say I'm good at organizing things, basically.
Okay. For me, well, I don't really like to talk about myself too much.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, like most things that I know about myself, people have told me from what they've experienced.
Yeah.
But if there's one thing that I'm sure about, it is I don't know how to word it. It would be like I honestly, like, I can, like, it's more like reading people.
Mm-hmm. I know what you're talking. So, if I can interject here,
yeah, go.
I think Pranav has really good intuition, and his intuition comes in a lot of ways. Like the gut reaction to that is, you know, he can read a room, he can read a person, like he knows the vibe of places. But I think for somebody that's hard to put in a box, it comes in even more handy because you know where to place yourself and where to get opportunity, like stuff like this, like starting a podcast, that kind of thing. Like, he rarely gets, for better or for worse, I think very few people outright say no to him because he knows when to ask the right question and like how to ask it and all these things. So I think he has good intuition and good placement for where to use that intuition, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Just going off that, like a few years ago, I would say like I was like it was a little rough, the intuition. It was like kind of there, kind of not. I had to work on it, like talk to different people, and be wrong or be right.
Mm-hmm.
I also play a little bit of poker, so that really helps sharpen it. So it was honestly a little bit practice to get it to this point. But as for the reading people and reading the room and like saying things that people need to hear or want to hear, that took actually a lot of practice, because even if I could read someone, I couldn't say the right thing or get them to be in a place where they needed to be. It was really difficult to like, if someone was not having a good day, I wouldn't know what to say, because me personally, I was having a fine day. But then I got to a certain point where I could, honestly, like, I knew the person well enough, or to a certain degree, where I could either get their mind off of it or give them exactly what they needed.
Yeah.
And I'm really proud of that, and it's been helping a lot recently. Like, actually, your dad and Manu Baba texted me after Thanksgiving the next day. They were just like, there's a positive, like, positive change in you, and it's really, really nice. Like, keep it up.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's good. Like, I've been consciously trying to be a little bit better. It was also a little bit about like being on a time limit. I wanted to spend time with everyone.
And when you say time limit, you mean because you're scared of death?
Yeah. I got a little bit of a death anxiety recently.
Yeah.
And
there must be a word for that.
That is the word.
Death anxiety?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, like, yeah, a lot of people have it.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's gotten better ever since I first felt it. Now it's pretty much just at night when I'm alone.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not too bad, and it's the same thoughts, so I can kind of get used to it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's honestly like a big motivating factor to maintain all of my relationships, make them as strong as they can be, and also spend time with the people that I love, in order to, like, pretty much, I was like reading up a little bit, and it literally said live every day like your last.
Yeah.
And I've heard that before, but I didn't like take it literally.
You didn't take it as an medication for a feeling. You just took it as a common aphorism about life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, yeah, I can say that I've been doing pretty well with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what they noticed.
Yeah.
It's just me being in like more present, and like being a part of whatever was going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, honestly, like, that's pretty much it for my intuition thing.
I think that as we keep going in this podcast, we'll find ways to articulate what we mean, because it's hard to talk about yourself or talk about these things that.
And not only that, I just think that they'll realize it because of how, like, what we're saying.
Time passes and what we're saying. Yeah, I agree.
They'll just get to know us better.
And the reason I say that is because this first episode, I'm trying to clearly nail home a point about like moral society and that kind of thing. And I think it's important. I think what you said is a good example of it, because the concept of that is that discipline in even small amounts basically shows that you're an upright, trustworthy person to society, and that's kind of what he's alluding to, is that it's a foundational thing that everybody has bad days and everybody has bad feelings, and when you wake up, it could be like you start your day with a bad feeling every day because whatever, like you don't want to be awake and that kind of thing.
I go to sleep with a bad feeling every night.
Yeah, and I think earlier in time, like not really social media age and that kind of thing, there used to be this type of acceptance that regardless of how things were at home, you would come out with a smile and greet your neighbor. And that's kind of, that actually really has value. Because as a human, like, even if you are having a bad day, going outside and getting groceries and doing all that kind of stuff is not just a distraction, but it's an actual balm to feeling bad because you're around people. And that's what makes us human, is that we don't live solitude and individual lives. We live amongst a bunch of people. And I think a lot of times, especially our age, we're 22, you're 20. 21, right? You're 21. We find ways to isolate ourselves because we don't, either selfishly because, you know, we don't want to be a part of anybody else's energy, or because we think that we're being selfless and not intruding on other people's energy. That is not the solution. The solution is, when you're having a bad day, to record the podcast anyway. And when you don't feel like it, to do maybe something slightly less intense, but do something. And that is where you build character. And whether we like it or not, we build character in public spaces. We build character in front of people. We build character when we wake up alone and decide to go outside. And I think Not Just Neighbors is just going to be a testament to that. We're going to talk about things that we think bring us character or have taught us more about character. And that's going to tie to philosophy. That's going to tie to dumb jokes. That's going to tie to you guys meeting our cousins. It's going to tie into a lot of things. So,
you want to get into arranged marriage?
I think we should have an audience for that, because the live reactions of like Anisha or Ashka would be pretty crazy.
All right.
If we were to go into that.
Cool. We're at around 22-ish.
I think we should cap it.
Cap it?
Yeah.
All right, let's close it out.
So, to close it out, we live in a complex society, and there's very few instances where we make a huge mistake and we go back and we apologize. So this podcast is going to be an attempt to learn every day from what we do the past week, in terms of like recording and in terms of life experiences.
Yeah, I want to add to that actually, especially because of social media, people just keep validating their own feelings.
Yeah.
When instead they should be dealing with it and becoming the best addition to society that they can be.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's going to be like Karens out there that think they're entitled to things or stuff like that.
We should be treating social media like a public space where if you trip somebody in the parking lot, everybody can see you. So don't be tripping people on social media as if nobody can see you. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, just be good and
stay moral.
Yeah. Honestly, like, we don't want to be your guys' moral compass, but some people don't have one. And
it's not a compass. This is just a reminder that we're playing the same moral board game. Where
we're all in the same game.
Yeah, where we have the same currency. And the currency is joy, it's happiness, it's having energy. And the way to gamify that is to have a compass and align your actions with your values. So that's coming in a lot of forms, but...
Yeah, I mean, I've had experience being morally incorrect, and I didn't like it. I started being morally correct, and everything felt good. I felt better about myself and everyone around me. Yeah, and it's unique for everyone, but I think when you realize that that is the game that we're playing, then it gets easier to correct your path. And that's just for pretty much relationships, whether it's like a certain person, like specific person, or a group of people, including everybody out there. Obviously, there's different aspects to life that we haven't talked about yet. What we say in our experience is not at all what is expected for anyone. We are in a pretty unique situation, which is why I want to share our version of this. Just not because we think that there's millions of people that are the exact same as us, but because I think it's interesting when I hear like glimpses of somebody's moral compass. I'm like, oh crap, that could be a whole new way of thinking of things. And that means that something I thought was so misaligned before is aligned, just not with my current day thing. Maybe it was aligned with a previous moral compass that I stole from Instagram from somebody that I admire or something like that. Yeah. So, on that note. Wait, actually there was one more point. It was, actually, it's fine. I forgot it anyway. So, thank you guys for watching. It was actually pretty chill episode this time. We're hopefully going to have a little bit more content on the next few. We're going to have guests come in. I know Vinny definitely wants to get on it. He's literally upstairs. He was like, "Yo,
can I get on it?" Yeah, one of our older cousins.
Yeah, he's a little eccentric, but
please leave a comment or something. You don't even have to like it. Just leave a comment.
Yeah, tell us what you think. We need feedback. This is our first one.
Yeah. We're just trying to get in our reps. We have no idea what people want and what we want, honestly.
I remembered my point.
Say it.
It's actually great that we don't have any following or influence right now because we can say whatever we want, knowing no one's going to listen to us, so we don't need to watch what we say. But if we did, then we need to, like, cool it a little bit and think about it a little bit more because of the influence that we would have.
Yeah.
No, that was it.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you guys for watching. Tune in next time.
Yes. Not Just Neighbors out. Pranav going to walk home to his neighborhood house.